of the general fund. Okay, then. So
We're good to go now.
I guess. All right. So the general fund, we talked about some of the items that we now have in this new budget for this year. I will first start with the total amount of the general fund budget. We are at our proposed budget for you all to consider is at just a little over almost $23.5 million, $23,400,000 compared to the 22 budget. And Ms. Qualls, you're welcome to jump in at any point if I need some help or clarification. The 22 proposed budget, as you see, is at $17,400,000. Two of the biggest differences in those numbers are pass-through numbers. One of those numbers is that the money that we received from the state of Tennessee, the American Rescue Plan funding, as you remember, we have 3.1 that we received this year, 3.1 and change, and 3.1 and change for next year. So those are in and out costs. So you will see those show as a revenue and then as expenditure. So that's one item that's big. We'll discuss that more later on. Another one of the items is the Board of Regents funding that we have received, as you know, that we get from the state every year. And so a large portion of that also is Board of Regents and the outgoing costs that go to the businesses that we have agreements set up with on those. Another small portion of the cost is, I believe I told you, we have a 4% cost of living increase in here as well. But those first two items are the biggest hit that you see within the budget. So what we'll do is we will start with the revenues that we have in our budget, which I'm on page 7. We talked about it's a net increase of 33% over last year. And I told you most of that is those two items we just referred to, dealing with the ARPA and the Board of Regents dollars. Most of that's just passed through numbers. The state shared sales tax is an unknown because we never know every year exactly what it's going to come in, but it has been coming in higher each year lately, even with COVID, which is great. It shows the economy is, at least in Tennessee, it seems to be doing well, especially in East Ridge. Property tax revenue came in within projections, and it looks like it's staying within that trend. As you all know, we have new home building that's going on, new infill of subdivisions, and that won't show yet, but that will hopefully show up in future years, obviously. We talked about there's some other Board of Regents businesses that'll be opening within the next year or so, and that will also help a little bit for us within the state shared sales tax lines. If you go to the next page, on page 8, I should let you do this, Diane, unless you want me to keep going.
Keep going.
You're right. On page 8, as you see, I have the revenues broken down in different areas. We have local taxes, we have licenses and permits, intergovernmental revenues, and then miscellaneous revenues. The first section is local taxes. And as you can see, the total within our local taxes has gone from the budget of 13 million to about 15.4 million. Part of that is a slight increase in our property taxes of about $125,000 over what we thought it would be for the budget for this last year. The local sales tax has gone up a couple $100,000. The incremental sales tax, which is the Board of Regents incentive, as you can see, has basically gone up almost $2 million within the budget. For the forecast, Diane, you correct me, the 4.871. That's the amount that we actually received from the state this year that we divvied out.
Yes.
A portion back to the businesses, right? And just so you all remember from last year and the year before, the 4 columns on your budget are the FY21 actual. That's the first column. That's basically what we have on our books is what we spent the last year. That's an unaudited number. So it might vary a little bit from that exact number that's there, but it's here mainly for you all for comparison purposes to be able to see. The FY22 forecast, that's what we think we're going to either receive within revenues or spend when we get to the other part of the budget for the remainder of the year. The FY22 budget is what you all approved last year at this time, and the FY23 request is what we're asking for the future year. That's coming up. And like I said, our budget is in balance for this year. So within the local taxes, are there any questions? And I'll assume not. The next section is licenses and permits. As you can see, that's pretty flat. That's where we get the cable franchise fee, and that's gone down a little bit because the people are cutting the cord. Not as many people are using cable systems such as Comcast or EPB or things of that nature. Building permits, we have an increase of 300,000. We don't know what that number could be. It could end up a lot higher than that, but as you know, we try to be conservative with our revenues to make sure we stay on the safe side. So there's not much more in licenses and permits. Are there any questions there?
No, but I wanted to go back to local taxes. I was trying to get it out and I couldn't. That represents no tax increase.
Correct.
Yes, I wanted to mention that.
Yes,
This year.
yes. There is no property tax increase
Thank you,
and the
sir.
budget is balanced. Thank you I forgot that part. Intergovernmental revenues. As you see, the very first line there is those, the American Rescue Plan funds I was talking about, the 3.1 million for the current year and for next year. We have our state law enforcement salary supplements, which are pretty even, state sales tax, and that's the portion where we get our share from the state based upon population, correct?
Yes.
And as part of the census, our population has gone up a little bit. And just the economy as a whole in the state has fared pretty well. So that number has gone up a little bit, as you can see, from the 2.1 million to the 2.4. We never know what that number is going to be until usually April, when MTAS and the state release what they think the projections will be for the next year. If you keep going through there, besides those two numbers I just mentioned, the TVA gross receipts has gone down just a little bit. Don't know why. That's just the number we got from the state, though, to plug in for based upon our population. So the local governmental revenues has gone from 2,557,000 to 6 million, and I basically told you where the two main hits are for that. Are there any questions on that part?
I have a question about the census. I read something on the internet, and we all know the internet has actual factual information, right? That says that Tennessee's census may not be totally correct. Is there a way that we can do something to change this census to see if we got everybody counted due to the pandemic?
I believe you have the option to either do a special census within your city to be able to make sure everybody is counted. I don't know if that'd be a good idea right now since the pandemic just passed, but in a year or two, if we know that, with the extra, infill that we're going to have with some of these subdivisions and stuff, it might be worth doing it. And at that point, we'd see how much it costs to do a special census, because I honestly have no idea how much that is. And then we could look to see about trying to get a better count at that point. But statewide, I don't know if there is a way the state can contest it or not.
That might be something we want to look at in the future, just since everything is based on population.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything else there? Okay, I'll move on to miscellaneous revenues. As you see, this is literally miscellaneous revenues, and it's only gone up about $100,000. In the areas here, we have our normal annual 3 to 4% increase on Ridgeside for their fire and police service contract that we do with them. If you go down, recreation does very well. Mcbride indoor facility has 0 because obviously we've closed the Mcbride school building, as you all know. The arena has been doing great. They've added some to theirs. They've been doing a lot of bookings, getting a lot of events in there. Shauna Skiles, Director Skiles, has been doing a good job promoting the arena and promoting Camp Jordan in general. Besides that, it pretty much slides down. Football has done better. If you flip the page, soccer field rentals, we have done very well with other sorts of organizations that have used it. We have a balloon glow coming up at some point. I forgot what the date was of that. Oh, Shauna can't be here today. She's sick. I apologize for her. She told me to let you know that. But as you see, but soccer field rentals, we've been doing great with trying to keep them ever since the council gave us, the go ahead to move forward to try to get some things done. We have done very well in trying to utilize the fields as much as possible, and also making sure that we save some of the fields, for purposes of regrowth and being able to rotate a few of those fields around. Municipal court fines and costs, I can let Patricia talk about that again as well. Ms. Cassidy, when she comes back in here for her presentation, we talk about courts. Judge Wilson has been very forceful and done a good job adjudicating. Is that a word? With the citizens and things here in East Ridge. So he's been doing very well, at least in my mind, to help keep the fines and costs at a steady level. Besides that, that's it on the miscellaneous revenues. Are there any questions on that or on revenues in general?
The mowing
Could you,
contract,
we had a problem here. Can you mind putting the mic in front of you just for,
the mowing contract, is that the increase they give us, or is that the old price?
I don't know. Let's see. Because I might have done the budget before they gave us the increase.
No, you put it in.
I think
Did
the
I put it in?
98 is the new price.
So you've got the new price.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Thank you. Okay, we'll go to administration. We'll start on the expenditures. The administration operating budget. As you see, we set up the pages in most of the departments, sort of like I've done the last couple of years. We show what the mission, our mission is, what the structure is within the department, and then what the services are. We try to do that to make the document, the budget document more user-friendly and where the citizens can look and see what sort of things we do here in our government. I'm gonna let you take over part of this, Ms. Qual, since a lot of the administration is you. Go ahead. Fine. Strategic goals. One thing Diane and I want to look at is completing a CAFR this next year. CAFR is a comprehensive annual financial report. We do an audit, but a CAFR, it's a little higher level than just a regular audit. There's certain standards you have to meet, Diane, right? And putting it together, and it just shows if you're able to get your annual report certified, it shows that your finances and your financial record keeping and accounting are doing very well within your city. And it's a way that you can get recognized for that. And I think that would be something very, very good for us to be able to do. We've kept a AA3 Moody rating for our bond issues, which is great. We have a tax collection rate of 96%. And of course, the sanitation collection is about the same, about 96, 97%. Now, part of that's because of all the houses that have been sold and all the real estate transactions. So a lot of things have to be caught up as you go through a little more than normal. Because usually you figure somewhere in the mid 90s anyway, lower to mid 90s, right?
In East Ridge, it's amazing, but it usually runs. It usually runs about 96, 97%.
Yeah.
The people are good about paying their taxes, except for a few.
Right. Except for what?
A few.
Oh,
We have some that do become delinquent and we have some that wait till right before it's time to auction off and then they catch it all back up.
right, right. Okay. And then when you go to the line, and so on the first page of administration, I'm sorry, I'll go back for a second. On each of the department summaries, I'll give you a category, like tell you how much just the personnel is versus how much the operations is. And then when you get back to the other page, you'll see the actual line item detail of those lines. See, the first section adds up to personnel. The second section adds up to operations. So, and one thing we did do in the budget column was Diane spread part of those salary adjustments. As you remember, we had a lump sum number for that last year. So she approximated what that spread might be within each of the departments, but made sure that we put the 600,000 in that budget line. So it may not be exactly a comparison between this year and next year, but it's pretty close. I want to mention that. You start with administration. You have our budget was at 834 for personnel. We're now looking at 863. That includes the 2023 request, mainly includes the 4% salary increase we've talked about. And for administration, you have 9 people. You got the city manager, the assistant city manager position is vacant, but it's still in here for right now. The HR manager, city recorder, finance director, and our finance personnel that we have. And of course, Josh, our IT person. That's our personnel. Under operations, as you see, we just went from 254 to 295. I keep talking about the budget and the request columns. So in there's not too much of a change as you go down. The biggest thing that we have in here that we've added is under transfer to other funds, the very last line, we have 40,000 in there to try to get a new pool vehicle for us to use for administration, and that'd be used like between us, and if codes needed or somebody in purchasing needed it, or if the community center needed something. It's a vehicle that's around here that we can use. We have an old Passat. I don't even know what year that thing is. But we would put that either on Gov Deals or send that down to another department if they wanted to use it.
Give it to the fire department.
Fire department likes to take vehicles, so maybe Mike could probably take it. So, but that's what we have in administration. Are there any questions on the administration budget before I move on to mayor and council?
The only thing that I have to mention is, do you want to mention the fact that our insurance,
We had no, well, that'll be when I get to general government.
general government? Okay.
Yes, I'll mention it at that point because now I'll talk city, but I can
I
mention.
saw
right-
it because I saw it the first time I saw it was here underneath administration, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
Well, I'll mention it here. That's fine. Our health insurance, for this upcoming year, we have a 0% increase in health insurance, which is remarkable
Yes.
that we're able to keep that in place. And with that, we have a very good plan for our employees. We have a $4,000 deductible. No, I said that wrong. Right? $4,000 deductible for the employee. And as part of the HRA, thank you. For that. And with that, we're able to keep a lower rate and we're able to stay with Cigna for yet another year. There's very slight increases on dental and vision. But besides that, it's pretty much of a 0% increase budget, which we were very, very thankful for. Any questions on administration? No. Mayor and council. Over here, as you see, your budget's pretty much flat. It goes from 120 to 124. The salaries and everything are pretty much equal. The hospital and health insurance changed just a little bit. Some of your health insurance numbers here, you're gonna notice have a small change compared to last year. We have a new spreadsheet that we're using as a model that Ms. Senegalio put together. And I think in some cases, it gives us a more accurate reflection of what our numbers should be. So that's why you might see a small difference in those numbers. The only thing that's worth noting here is that, of course, this year we have $6,300 put in there for elections, which we have to budget every 2 years. And besides that, that's about it. We pretty much kept it pretty flat.
Yep. So the only increase basically is for the election.
Yes. Any questions? I'll move on. Judicial, will you go grab Patricia real quick, please? Somebody? She told me to call when we're ready. Thank you. Hello, you all know Patricia Cassidy. I'm just starting on the judicial part. So if you want to stand over here for a minute, I'm going to give them some of the high points of your budget and then see if they have any questions or anything. As you see, her budget goes from $348,000 to $426,000. We have salaries, of which we told you there's a 4% cost of living increase for employees. Besides that, the health insurance has gone down a little. She's had people that have, she's had a couple changes in personnel, and one may be taking single or somebody else had a family or something like that. So that's what those minor changes are. The big thing Patricia and I worked on this year for her was to install, and I'm going to let you talk about it, the Tyler system for the court reporting and what you need for records. And
Yes, so it's the same system that the police department is going to be using. And the whole idea when we got CJIS was so that the police department was supposed to get CJIS and they never did. So, and that was Judge Helton's idea. Plus it helped the DAs and the public defenders and all that. We need to be in sync with the police department more than we do the DAs and the public defenders. So that way the police officers don't have to call me at 2 o'clock in the morning and ask for a judgment, or if it's a warrant, it'll be tied together with what the police department is using so that the officers can actually see what we've done as far as dispositions and things like that, where they can't see it now. So Tyler Tech is who you all use, and that's who it's a one-time setup fee, correct, Clint? And then they charge like a,
It's 65,000 for the first year, 25,000.
correct, you have
Continual,
my
yes.
stuff, so, yeah. And the salaries, does that include the raise for the judge?
No, because they haven't voted on whether they want to do it yet.
Oh, okay.
So I don't want to be forward and decide to put in a raise that they haven't discussed yet.
What was that question? I was about to ask the same one.
What? Oh, if if our salary is included for the judge's raise. And
Right.
Mr. Dorsey
My
just said,
question was going to be if it was strictly employees. The salary increases on. that
Yes.
line.
Because the council hasn't taken any action or direction on what we need to do for a salary increase for the judge. So we
not a
haven't.
salary
done it yet.
increase for me.
Right.
I haven't had a salary increase since I've been here because whatever, but anyway, I'm not asking for anything for myself personally. It's for the court so that we can be in sync with the police department and for the people that work here and for the judge. Every judge doesn't want to be a judge here because it doesn't pay enough. Because we are so close to being like a Hamilton County. We actually have more people on our docket than the county does on a daily basis on their dockets. And they have 4 to 5 different courtrooms. And a lot of the attorneys that would want to be judge has actually said no because they'd lose money because of their caseload. If they took our judge, they couldn't do their cases, so they're not gonna.
Question for Chris, maybe at some point in time, can we get a list of some of the other salaries that the other judges are getting in other small municipalities?
Yeah.
Fair to.
But that's why we didn't put an increase in here because that'd be at the direction of council, not me.
And we-
But if you want to add
wanna
money
get-
into this line for a potential raise, we can do that.
But
also get a list of what the court clerks are getting paid also.
it's hard to compare me with the other court clerks.
They're all different.
They're all different. I mean, my job here is so much different than the other court clerks. I mean, our court right now, like I said, is so, the only one that you can compare it to really is the county. And because our caseload is so obnoxiously high right now that, I mean, I'll be honest with you, we've had over 1,000 people in a month in our court. Not, Red Bank doesn't even come close to it. Collegedale doesn't even, like Judge Wilson has even said, his court in Collegedale is mostly traffic. We have real criminals. So, and we try to get them to the grand jury as much as we can, but there's a lot of times they don't want to go. And then we have to have preliminary hearings and then they're put off and then, on and on and on. So. We're up there with the big boys now.
Any other questions for the court clerk? Any other questions in the judicial budget?
I have one. I don't remember where it is, but there's some ruling we have made. It's either in the charter or personnel rules or something stating that no pay raises to be issued to elected officials without in the same period that they are.
That's state law.
Okay, so
You can't, elected officials cannot issue themselves a pay raise. Elected officials can schedule a pay raise that takes effect after the next election.
Okay.
But
So
that's in
that's-
state law, because before you all, there was one put in for you. When you came to see me when I first got here, I said, you can't do that.
4 years ago, but it
Yeah.
was supposed to take place after that election.
is the judge considered an elected official even though he's,
Yes,
Yes,
that's why it has to be passed before he's,
before the elections, not after the elections.
before the August election. Yeah.
Because yours was right after your last election. It was in 2019, because it was right when I got there. Yeah. 18. Okay, anything else for the judicial budget? Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
The next page, page 20, we have the city attorney and he's flat. So. Is there any comments on that? I will keep going. His budget's pretty stable. I have no idea when the last time this city attorney received a raise, but that's just something for
He hasn't.
consideration.
He hasn't
His retainer.
Hasn't.
since
he's been here.
2016.
What he started at.
Okay. General government, we'll go to that page. In our summary, as you see, our budget goes from $1,074,000 to 1.1 million. So very, very slight adjustment. This is where we budget the health insurance for the retirees that we have. This is the administrative cost for the Lincoln retirement plan. This is also where we have our workers' compensation budgeted because it's a citywide thing. And you're going to have to jump in on part of this one, Diane.
Yes, sir. We are supposed to get a discount with our policies, but we won't know how much it is yet. But I have received a letter from PEP that they will be doing a discount. So hopefully it's going to be less than what I budget. And then the HRA is where we pay for the part of the employees' insurance. After they pay their either $400 or $600 deductible, then we pick it up from that point until we reach the max out on the deductible.
So it's pretty flat. Any questions on general government? No. We will go to the City Hall complex. This is basically for us here, as you can see, and it's pretty much flat. The one thing we didn't put in here, which we probably have a little room to be able to absorb, but if not, we'll come back to the council. The electricity, the water, and the natural gas. Because I don't even know if they've said if the rates are going, the electric rates are going up next year. Haven't heard. Sewer always goes up, we know. But with the water, sometimes we've been having a few water leaks that we've been trying to get fixed and things like that. And whether or not the anything else will change here, we're not sure at the exact moment. So we just kept it flat for right now. It's such a small budget. Any questions on the City Hall? Library. Okay, Patty is out today. She's sick as well. So I will try to cover part of this and maybe you can help me, Diane, as we go through. Basically, her budget is also pretty flat as well. It shows the 4% increases in the salaries, as we talked about. There's a little increase in health insurance because one of the employees went from single to family, I believe. As you go through the regular numbers going down through the operations, as you can see, they're pretty stable. Very small increase in books and the cell phone lines. Those are just basically cost, annual inflation sort of increases that go through. But basically her budget is pretty flat as well, from $279,900 to $281. It's only below over $1,000. Any questions for library? If I don't know the answer, I can get an answer from Patty. No. History Museum. There's not much in the History Museum budget, obviously, at this point. It's just the cell phone for the alarm, right? That's over there.
That's it.
And contract service, that's only 400. So the next page, we will get to building and codes. I think Michael's here somewhere. Isn't he? Yeah. So as I said, I'll go through parts of the budget first, and then you can jump in where you want to or be able to answer some questions as we go through. Of course, on the front, we have the structure. You have Michael, the chief building official. We have a administrative assistant, permit tech, building inspector, and we have 2 code enforcement officers that are underneath him, underneath the building inspector. Strategic goals, and some of these things I won't read because I know you've already read through this stuff in the budget book already. And like I said, it's also for the public to be able to read, but some of the demand measures, 793 permits issued last year or during this current year. Over 800 building inspections, 60 administrative hearing officers cases have been heard. 475 citations. And you want to make sure I said that you knew that was increasing daily. So performance highlights, we talked about, they have a new permitting software, OpenGov. And if Michael wants to talk for a quick second on that.
Yes, so this system's been really great for us and for contractors as well. It's allowed them to, not even coming into City Hall at this point, and do any type of permitting outside of this the building, as well as the citizens. It's been very transparent. If, we get someone calling in with the complaint, say, we say, hey, go to OpenGov, voice your complaint there or whatever. Then we go out, take a look at see if there's any citation on it at that point, and then issue it if needed. It also allows any citizen within the city of East Ridge to go on the OpenGov and see, because we get a lot of call-ins if whether street cuts permits are pulled, building permits, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, they can go to the single address and they can verify that within seconds. So it's been very transparent for us as well. So.
Thank you. In addition to that, as you go through on the next page, the line item detail for building and codes, you can see the personnel went down a little bit, and that's because the fire marshal, his whole salary has gone over to the fire department, as you will see when we get to the fire department at that point. So his salary has gone down. If you go through the operations, the biggest thing you'll notice here is we had $25,000 in the budget for demo and cleanup, and this year we're asking to go up to 100,000.
So we, in the past, and I don't want to put down any past employees that's been in this department, but we've had a lot of houses being demolished over the last year. I'm sure you guys are aware of that. We extinguished that 25,000 within, 3 houses. We're continually to, push these houses to the housing board, these vacant, dilapidated ones, and trying to find a resolve on them. So that's why we're asking an additional 100,000 on that.
So, thank you. And so with that being said, his budget is going from 678 up to 600 and down to 669,000. And that's basically because that one position moved and the increase of the demo. Are there any questions relating to building and codes budget?
Not really building and codes, but I've noticed every department we've been through has got a insurance deductible. So is that per incident, or is that per department's got $1,000 deductible a year? Or is that
Yes.
for the whole city?
No, each
Per event.
department has it's for the deductibles we have to pay for accidents that are the city ones through our public entity partners, our liability, we have $1,000 deductible. So
Per-
whenever it's police, it's going to come out of their department. If it's fire, it'll come out of theirs. And I pick on I'm not picking, but they're the 2 biggest departments. And so they're the ones that usually have more of a hit because they're out there so much, but that's what it's for,
We make sure we have that spread.
So is that per incident?
per incident.
Per incident?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we're hoping he doesn't have
But
any,
one.
or none. But
None.
yes.
And there are some years that we have none in some departments.
I've got a question. I kind of asked a similar question at the last council meeting in regards to the demo. How successful have we been recouping those costs when the property sells at some point?
So once we place that lien on the property, it actually goes on the tax roll. We're recouping at the end of the year when taxes are due. So it's been, depending on, if the house is being purchased.
I'm just curious if we continue to go in the red demoing these, or at some point do we actually see this come back to us, or how often?
We do see it come back slow. Usually when they're selling the houses and they do the title search, that's when we get our money.
And you had a very good question at the last meeting dealing with, is there other ways that you can collect the money besides just putting it on the tax roll and waiting? And I don't think we got an answer on that yet.
No, but actually it's putting it on the tax roll has helped tremendously.
Yeah. But like I said, it can still take a while to get that.
It does, but we do get it. It takes a little while, but just about every month we're getting some. And like I said, we've had so much property moving that the title companies are calling us to find out about liens and owed sanitation fees. We're recovering those also. So we are getting our money. It takes a little while, but we get it.
Okay. Anything else for building and codes? Thank you. Don't go too far. Next, we have animal services. We have you, and I think we have Crystal. Animal services budget. Theirs is going from 299,000 up to 352. They ran 982 calls last year, adopted 232 animals. Spayed and neutered 311 dogs and cats. Like I said, I won't read everything that's in there. If you go to the next page, the line item detail, you can see there's a slight increase for cost of living that we've talked about. If you go further down, we've added a little bit into their spay and neuter line to try to be able to help control the animal population a little more. And then their biggest expense is a $40,000 for a new van for the animal shelter. So I wish you'd talk about animal services. If you talk about that for a minute, please. One of y'all too, the van.
So currently they have 2 working vehicles right now. I know in the past, we've had donations from Volkert, I think it was. We had a vehicle. Of course, now that one's, it's past its prime. Police department actually donated one as well down to the animal shelter department. Now we've got issues with that as well. So it's, I believe it's being surplus now. Is that not correct on that? So basically, we're looking at another vehicle similar to the one we have now, that when Kenny was here, we got the van. I think that's worked out really well for
Yes.
Crystal and other staff. That would be, and basically that would give 3 vehicles for 3 personnel in that department.
Because one of our trucks now needs to go in the shop, and that's going to leave us 1 vehicle running calls 24/7 and 3 employees running calls as well.
And you said something about the height too. Trying
So
to get-
when you have the kit truck and you have an aggressive dog on a catch pole and it's just you, it's easier to walk that dog up in that van than trying to lift up like an 89-pound dog without getting bit while it's on a catch pole and loading it and unloading it. Caroline ran an emergency call in the middle of the night about a month ago. It was a about 90-pound golden retriever hit by a car on South Seminole. It was so much easier for her to put that dog on a blanket and slide it in the back of the van instead of having to lift that weight up and get it in the kit and then lifting it again to get it out. And then you're also putting the animal in like a lot of stress too, especially if they've been injured.
Thank you. So with that said, are there any questions for animal services on their budget?
I do. Was there any funds put in for design or engineering, anything for the new,
Yes, that'll be back when we get to the capital budget. Yes.
back to the capital budget? Okay.
But yes, while we're mentioning it though, yes, there is $300,000 in there for architecture and engineering for a new shelter
Thank you.
to get that ball rolling. Any other questions? Thank y'all.
You're welcome.
The next pages we have are economic and community development. In here, it's just the first page, the community development programs is 5,000 for transportation assistance. That's part of that caravan
Carter.
for the Carter Caravan for the on-call service that we provide. The next page after that is the economic development portion, and I'm gonna let you talk about that one, Diane.
Yes, that is where we transfer out the border region incentives to the Economic Development Fund, and then we transfer them to the IDB. So, and then we also
You have to
have
keep a good paper trail. of
Yes,
what
that's
goes
to have a
from the
paper
general
trail.
fund
You're
to
seeing
here
where
to
it's going, which is audited by the state. And then we have legal fees in there for when Mark, the attorney, is working on border region stuff, working on incentive agreements and things like that. He is paid out of this line. And that is all that we costs that we can submit in with our border region cost every year. So I keep that separate. And then the 299 is for retail strategies. I didn't know, we didn't know if we're going with them again or whatever, so we left in that amount.
Okay.
That's all.
Any questions on the economic development?
To clarify, is this our attorney, Mark, or is this Mark Manitow that we're
Let's-
talking about?
Actually, it's
Could be
either one.
both.
I was going to ask the same question.
Yes.
So it's both.
Yes, it's either one because we can start with Mark Mamatoth also. So both of those, when it has anything to do with border region, comes out of that line item. That's recoverable cost. Try saying that one.
Anything else? Nope.
Retail strategy, is that contract ending soon?
I think it is.
I believe it's either
I-
August or September.
Yeah, it's usually sometime in early fall.
We're budgeting money for a new contract or,
Yes, because every year it
okay,
either renews or whatever. Yeah.
We're just leaving it as a placeholder in case we might go with someone else or something. But
Right.
we at least have that to go by.
Thank you. We'll now go to police. And I believe Chief Allen is behind me. There he is. So with police's budget, as you see, we go from 5.2 million to 5.8 million. We've talked about his performance highlights. He's hired 2 additional sworn officers. Entered in a contract is it Compass Auctions, right? The
Yes.
vendor, to help streamline the sales process of a lot of the excess properties that we have. He's working on getting Talia certified, Tennessee Area Law Enforcement.
The law enforcement.
Thank you. Sorry. Of course, as you all know, they've been very active with getting with the citizens, with the Citizens Police Academy, the Community Care Program, which we've talked about, and the Take Me Home program, which you just brought before the council just recently and talked about that as well. Yes. We can go ahead and you can read through some of the other things that we put in there for you all to look over. And he's divided into a couple departments in here. He has administration. That's the first department. And as you see, the personnel goes from 849,000 to 966,000. And one thing that Stan did was he moved a couple people around from one department to another. And I believe this is one person was moved up into administration, correct?
That's correct.
And that was the,
Station officer.
thank you, station officer. So that's where your difference, along with the 4%, comes in for that. If you go down through the rest of his operational budget, you'll see one difference is the contract with other governments. And that's basically, most of that, I think, is the 911 funding, which every year goes up. I think it's going up in total to $499,000 this next year from 430 or something like that. I'll find that when we get to fire. He also has a jump in his computer IT software line from 100 to 125. I'll let him talk to you about that here in a second. Operating supplies and equipment's gone up a little bit. And you have your 55,000 for tasers, which I'll let you talk about real quick, if you would, please.
Okay. What we've been using for a while now is the X26P taser. Taser will no longer support those, meaning it's going to be difficult to get batteries. It's going to be hard to get cartridges. And to get them repaired. There is a new program that they came out with, and it's to get Taser 7s, which are much more advanced and better piece of equipment. And we're getting those on a 5-year lease purchase. So we'll be spending that $55,000 a year, every year for the next 5 years. But that we don't have to pay anything else. All our cartridges are included, all the batteries are included, any repairs, and also their liability support is included in that. And of course, they've done that before. The thing about it is Taser has, they have the corner on the market for electronic control weapons. There's nothing else out there that even compares to the Taser product. So we're going to stick with what works and what can be defended.
Thank you. And along with that, in the transfer to other funds, we have an extra $30,000 in there for camera technology.
Correct.
For license plate readers.
Yes. There'll be some cameras that we are purchasing and the ability to access a database for all these camera license plate reader cameras that record companies have, other agencies use. Those can be, they record license plate and will hit if it catches a car that has a stolen license plate or has been reported stolen, it'll report it to us and we can do that. Clint's really been heading this, and if you got questions, he may be the best one to answer, but it's going to be a really good crime fighting tool.
And then, thank you. And then the other one, large purchase we have in here is under transportation equipment, 334,000 for 8 police vehicles.
8 new cars, correct.
One thing, as you know, that was happening before I got here and before some of you were on the board, a lot of years, vehicle purchases were skipped over due to budget constraints and things of that nature. And we have been slowly trying to play catch up to get on a cycle where the departments would be able to have reliable, dependable transportation.
Yeah, it's, we've been behind ever since I've been here, since I came in 2015, we've been behind on cars. And I think last year we bought, how many did we buy last year?
Way too many. I was not going to say a word about that at all.
With our.
You're
our
digging your
budget-
own grave.
Yes.
With our budget last year,
Thinking maybe 8.
I think we
7
bought
or
8,
eight.
but
I
we're
think that's about
we're
right.
still behind, but we're getting there. It's just going to take a little while. They're not cheap. They're expensive to get.
Something thousand apiece.
The Dodges that we used to buy are cheaper, but in the long run, they're more expensive because we have to keep repairing them.
How are we doing on turnaround time on those vehicles now? Have you heard any? What's the latest you've heard?
If we order these vehicles right after July 1st, we should get them sometime in the fall.
Wow, that's better than, yeah.
We should get them sometime in the fall.
Okay. So that's it for police administration. Any questions on that before we go to the next part of the next
I have
department?
a few. Go ahead.
I do too. Okay, start with the 911 dispatch. How many salaries do we pay over there? Do they come out of the dispatching fund or? do they
We
come out
don't,
of
we
the
pay,
salaries?
and I'll be happy to give you a copy of this. We pay a certain amount per dealing with the population and dealing with the call volume. And so that's how they figure out how much we pay. This all started back like in 2008. Because before that, East Ridge had its own dispatch. I remember correctly,
Yeah, we use.
because I was at Red Bank at the time. And so there's like call volume funding, then they do a percentage of the population for the whole county. Then there's what's called a wireless cost adjustment, because sometimes calls can hit a cell tower that might be in East Ridge, but it might be for a call that's really Chattanooga or vice versa, just because of where the cell towers are. So they give a small adjustment for that as well. But that's how they figure out the cost. It's by a contract that, like I said, was done back in 2008.
We first went over there, I thought we had 2 employees over there from East Ridge, but I could be wrong. That's been
That
a
may
long
have been.
time.
That might have been
Yes,
absorbed into the
but we
county.
Okay,
we don't pay for a person. We pay for the service, and then they use that money to pay their people, but we're not paying for an East Ridge employee.
but we do not have a per se East Ridge employee over there. Okay.
We don't have an East Ridge employee.
My next question is I broke your $335,000 down on 8 vehicles, comes to about $41,800.
That's
Now,
correct.
is that for SUVs?
Yes.
Well, I was just wondering if we might price the Taurus or the whatever the Ford car is that they've got as a police car.
They do not make a police sedan anymore.
It's the Explorer Interceptor, right?
Explorer Interceptor now is what their police vehicle is.
Okay. and
I asked about that.
The reason why I was asking is because I noticed a 33% increase in fuel, and those SUVs are just, gas hogs out here running them down the road. So
And thank you for mentioning that too. And
Yeah.
all, as I mentioned the other day, every budget, their fuel line, we increased by 33%.
I'm just asking.
That's just the administration. We still got some other parts to go through, but
I was going to ask the same thing. So all 8 vehicles are SUVs.
Yes, sir.
On the tasers, you said that it was going to be 55.5 for 5 years, each year for 5 years.
That's correct.
What's the life expectancy of those? 5 years?
There- It should be more
Where
because
I'm going.
they will be, they'll be maintained by Taser. We won't be spending money to
Okay.
maintain those.
until after
And
5
it's-
years.
But they expire, when's their life expiration on those?
Well, in 5 years, we can redo and get all new ones again.
Okay, but then we continue the 55.5. We have to purchase again.
Isn't that what we're doing, Clint?
Okay.
Yes,
So this is
correct.
going to be an ongoing expenditure.
Right.
Yes.
It'll probably go up a little bit, obviously, in the
Okay.
future, but
The reality is that it would phase you.
But come up here where they can hear.
I'm not questioning the expense. I just want to know the ongoing.
No, in the real world, we're probably gonna be lucky to get 6 or 7 years out
That's
of. Kind of seems to be the standard. It wouldn't surprise me if we're re-upping after 5 years to get new ones. They're constantly improving their technology.
Right. So it's going to be pretty much a continual expenditure
Right.
from now on.
Well,
To
it's
be up to
benchmarking
date
expenditures.
and, okay. And then the other,
My opinion, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just to go on with that just a little bit is in 5 years, they're going to have something new,
correct, probably sooner than that.
probably sooner. Yes, sir.
The other thing that I had, and it's not related to numbers, but I see on your strategic goals, continued progress toward attaining Tennessee law enforcement accreditation. Is that, where are we at? I know that's been something you've been looking at and considering, or,
It's an ongoing process. What we have to do is we have to develop our policies and revise our policies to meet the standards, the
Right.
TALIA standards, and that's where we are. And I've been working just this week on our policies and looking, and out of close to 150, I'm down to 46 that have to be revised and implemented.
so do you envision that to be something within a year, within 2 years? What is there a benchmark you're looking for on this goal?
Yes, sir. We would like to get the first award in this calendar year.
Awesome. Sorry to put you on the spot on that, but I was,
No, fine. It's fine. That was something that we really are trying
Oh, yeah.
work hard on and get it done.
I
it
think that'd be
will-
great.
Just as a side note, it will save us $50 per officer in liability insurance with PEP.
Thank you.
any other questions on administration? Okay. The next part of police's budget is criminal investigations, or as they call it, CID. Their budget is pretty much flat with the exception of you moved personnel from here to patrol? Or was this when you moved to administration?
One was moved out of CID into
Into
patrol. I mean, no, into admin, but then another one moved into CID.
Right. We
Okay.
moved, yes, that's correct.
So the salary is different. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So besides that, it's pretty much a flat budget. Are there any questions on the CID? Moving on, patrol. Within police's patrol budget, as you see, their personnel went down a little bit because like I said, right last page, we coordinated moving a little of that around to traffic. And I cut a couple lines off of traffic. I'll have to give you a new page for that. I apologize. It left off the personnel line. But within patrol, let's start with patrol though. Patrol, as you see, it went down from 2,551,000 to 2,420,000. So with that difference, like I said, one of the people or two of the people went over to traffic. One person went over to traffic within that. But besides that, there's not too much change with the exception of the increase in fuel. Any questions on patrol? Okay. And traffic is the last one, and I'm going to my notes here. So within traffic, a couple of lines that are missing here, obviously this accounts, scratch out that top part of personnel. I did a cut and paste wrong on something. The total personnel should be $297,000. It was $202,000 in salaries for the FY 2023 proposed. And that's where the jump is, like we said, because before you had 90,000 in salaries. So you went from 90 to 202 with the moving of the couple positions. But that was really the only change within traffic was those couple positions being moved. As the chief already mentioned. So I'll get you a corrected page with the top personnel part there. Any other questions for under traffic or on anything dealing with the the police budget.
I notice in traffic here, I don't see a vehicle maintenance or a gasoline. Operations.
Yes, I'll give you a new traffic page. I cut and paste. I must have added a line that moved the stuff on that page.
Yeah, it's fires.
Yeah, so I'll fix that page for you.
I think I'm
But to
missing. that
answer your
page.
question, vehicle repairs and maintenance had $4,000 in it. They had $2,200 in tires. Fuel, almost $8,000. Okay, and did you and Michelle figure out the complement?
The
Does she need to come
numbers.
up here?
You're talking about the last page.
Yes.
You want to explain it?
On the last page, it shows positions, authorized positions, it shows 50. But what was left out of that number are our 3 crime suppression officers and our canine officers. That number should be 54. We have 49 sworn positions and 5 civilian positions. 5 civilian positions are listed, but the 3 crime suppression and the 1 canine is not.
And the org charts there in the back, that's correct. And that's right. Sorry, any questions for police?
These salaries are already figured in for what's wrong here.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Fire department. Fire department's budget for the upcoming year is going from 2,596,916 to 2,822,096. Majority of that, as we said, is the 4% cost of living. Because obviously he has one of the 2 largest departments that we have. Going through there, we have 2 fire stations. We have a brand new engine that we're still waiting on getting. That's out. And we'll talk about that when we get to the debt service numbers here. And you all can read through the performance highlights. Average response time is 3.9 minutes for a call. Pretty good. We look at the very next page, the line item detail. As we talked about the salaries, we talked about the 4% salary increase that's in there. We go through, besides that, your personnel is pretty much the same. As you go through the operations for fire, of course, the one thing I'm sure that the chief's going to talk about in a minute is how well the Hamilton County EMS is working out for us. And he also has a little bit in there because his percentage is 30% of the 911
Yes.
funding, right? And police has the other 70 of the increase. So if you go through, you will see those are the big items that he has. To transfer to other funds on the next page, that 106,150, that's the first payment of 7 for the new fire engine you all approved. Okay, and then there's 65,000 in transportation. He may touch on that. One is for a new, I forgot the name of the vehicle. Maintenance, not maintenance vehicle. There's a name for the vehicle.
Which one was it?
The 40,000 you wanted for the, I'll find it here. Yes, the command truck. Thank you. And then there's another 20 in there just as a placeholder for there's a used vehicle you wanted to get to be able to use for maintenance and things of that nature. Go and talk about EMS. I'll find it for you. Rehab truck. Hey, you wanted you're looking for a utility truck for the 40, and then I'd put 20 in. You're looking for like a used rehab truck. Does that make sense? Okay.
On the rehab truck, one of the issues we've got now is that truck has got over 300,000 miles on it. It was a donated piece of apparatus when we got it from ambulance service. So it's currently not in service. It's turned into a money pit. We use that truck for support services on fires, for lighting, for rehab, and for air truck to fill up our air bottles on the scene. So we're looking at trying to come up with another type of vehicle to replace that. There's a lot of different costs anywhere from, if we go with a used vehicle, no more than we're going to be using the vehicle on fires and such. I think that would probably be our best bet. As far as a new vehicle, I don't see it being a priority for a new vehicle right now. I think we can get by with something that's used in that, but needing some funds for that, that's what we're looking at.
And then you had the utility truck you wanted to get, the new command truck.
The command truck is the battalion chief's truck. That's a command truck. What we're looking at doing is trying to replace it. It is run constantly. The battalion chief's in it all the time, every single shift, all 3 battalion chiefs. That vehicle has got a slide in it, where it's got all of our command boards. This is how we track all of our people on any major incident, any fire incident, any search, any type of major incident that would happen in the city. What we need to do is look at replacing that truck, take the slide out of it, put it in a new vehicle. That's a money savings. Take that vehicle and use it as a utility. The fire department has no pickup trucks at all. We need a pickup truck. We need a good pickup truck that we can use when we need to pull boats with, pull trailers with, to load hose in the wintertime. We can't load hose in the wintertime if it's wet back on the trucks. It's frozen. So we have to roll it. We have to have a place to put it. We can bring it back to the station so we can transport it in the back of a pickup truck. I can't put it in the back of a fire engine. It's contaminated. Okay. I've got guys riding in the back of the fire engine with those contaminants that causes other issues that we could have in the future. So we're trying to cut those cancer issues out. So needing a pickup truck, we could use this truck for that. And at the same time, get a truck to replace for the battalion chiefs.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions for fire department? No. Thank you very much. The next budget we have is parks, and I apologize that Shauna couldn't be here today. But I will try to answer as many of the questions as I can. I should be able to answer most of them as we go through this. Their budget obviously was 1.5 million. They went up to, they went up about $40,000 within their whole budget from $1,588,000 to $1,625,000. If we go to general recreation, which is on page 60, as you see, that budget pretty much stayed, a lot of these you'll notice they pretty much stay flat with a little increase in fuel and a couple other small changes. They had a 4% cost of living increase as well. So going through recreation, which is the general costs that are spread among parks and rec as we go through, in addition to a couple of the employees that go over the whole department. And there's $12,000 in here for I believe that's for the mower. They need a replacement mower under the general purpose machineries. Are there any questions on general recreation? If you think of something, we can catch at the end of parks as well. But
I looked for it in here, but I couldn't see the revenue for the private entities that we've got down at the park, like the slip line and the kayak rental or bicycle rentals, whatever they do down there. I couldn't find where
they should have been up in miscellaneous revenues in the front, Mr. Cagle.
okay, but they're not listed that way. It just, I was just wondering how much we're bringing in off of those two down there.
Okay, if it's okay with you, I'll write that down. I can get the answer back to all the council. You want the slip line? You want the concessionaire rentals, right?
Well, I seen
Yes.
concessionaires. Okay, but I've seen one for I'm assuming that we own the Coca-Cola machines down there that's sitting out around the park.
The machines, yes.
Okay, so.
And how they're stocked and where that money flows from, I'm not sure. Because in some cases, it's supposed to go through the state of Tennessee Disabled Vendors Program. But for some reason, I don't think the parks does. There's certain ones that if they try and can't get in, they're able to
The
not have
Coke
to
machines
participate.
are under vending.
Okay.
Under vending, okay. And then the
Last page of
concessionaires,
The
The concessions is
concessionaire,
just,
that's
That must be the slip.
Randy. No,
That's Randy,
I
that's Randy
think-
Carpenter's?
yeah, that's Randy Carpenter.
Where you can say it's his percentages.
Yeah, I would, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to ask Shauna. I think she just puts that under miscellaneous income.
Oh, there is miscellaneous on the next page. But since that's not broken out, I'll find out for you.
Like we get a little money for the ATM machine.
Flip line, canoe. I'll get that for you. Back to parks. Okay, the next page is the arena. Came to an arena, obviously, as you see, the personnel is pretty flat. Everything in this budget is pretty much flat. Custodial services, we've gone up a little bit. Just trying to make sure between the different rentals that we're able to keep parts of the arena clean. Besides that, it's pretty much a flat budget. One thing I did mention that I'll mention, I think the next page is coming up, is community center. We have, I know it's been a policy of the city to allow nonprofits to use a lot of the facilities for free. Which I think it's a good thing to do, but in some cases it does cost the city, especially if we have to have somebody work overtime to be over the building while it's supposed to be free for the nonprofit entity and things of that nature. And there used to be certain laws about if you donate to nonprofits that you're supposed to have certain things in place and all that sort of stuff, which we haven't been doing either. But with the minor amount of money we're talking about, one thing we would like the council to consider is in the future, if there's nonprofits that want to use the facilities for free, that's okay. But if there's any cost incurred by the city in the use of the facility that we think we might need to be able to charge the nonprofits for that. And I'm not talking paying rent or anything like that, but if there's a cost to the city where like an employee has to stay that night, or we have to have people there to monitor or pick up or place tables or things of that nature, that's one of those costs that should be forwarded on to a nonprofit, because it does cost the city money to do those things. People think it's free, but it's not free to the city.
And the state law says that if you are giving money and you're not giving money, but you're giving
Services.
which are a cost to the city, that they have to show us they are a 501c3. We have to have a copy of their financials. And I know that at the park, they've been good about getting a copy of the financials, because we're going by the state law. The state law says this is the taxpayers' money, basically. This belongs to the taxpayers. And so they have to, show us that they are a 501c3, and there are guidelines for that.
And you used to have to advertise it in the paper, used to have to do resolutions, but they've loosened up on some of that. Just something for you all to think about. We may need to look at charging them just what the actual cost is to use it, not the rental fees, not all that, but what the actual cost is to the city to use it.
So if I'm hearing that correctly, not a rental fee, but more of an operational cost.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So any other comments on the arena budget? No? Okay, thank you. Community center, our next budget. Obviously in here, you're going to see a little increase because this is where the splash pad money has been budgeted for the chemicals and things of that nature. So the personnel is pretty much flat with the exception of the 4%. And the rest of it's pretty much flat with the exception of the 29,000 for the splash pad. As you know, the splash pad opened this last week. We had some operational issues the first week. We had to close it Monday to try to get that fixed. We were able to get in touch with the company on Tuesday and get a couple of the issues fixed. So the remainder of this week, they're running a limited 11 to 3 to make sure things work properly on it. And I think the company rep's coming back out this next week to look at a couple of the issues that we have. Just startup issues. Any questions on community center?
I do. What kind of warranty did we get on the splash pad? I can't remember.
I know I asked that question too. I forgot how many years we have.
I don't know, probably we'll need to check with Byron.
Just out of curiosity, how long it's going to be warranted for?
Because I've asked that already.
Because we don't keep the warranties. Usually Byron has those.
Any other questions?
I got one. Are we going to train someone or do we have someone that is, I'm gonna say qualified to the chemicals in the splash pad?
When the after the splash pad was installed, the company came to train a couple of our individuals at the same time of how to monitor the chemicals, how to wash out the filters, how to keep the area clean. And we also had Amanda tape all that at the same time too. So if we have a turnover employees, we'll have an educational tape that we can also show for new employees. Anything else on community center? No, okay. Mcbride Complex. This is a Byron question, but the only thing we have in that budget is electric.
Electricity. The only thing will be electricity, and there's still an alarm system.
And that's it. And otherwise, we've shut down McBride. We don't have indoor hitting facility. We don't have
You have nothing.
we don't have a workout facility for city employees in there. We have nothing in there anymore that we're utilizing. Soccer recreation. Obviously, this goes, well, this is the East Ridge Football Club. Do you want to talk about this one, LaDiane? You know a little more about it than I do.
What about rec soccer?
Yes.
This is just where the city is, well, we're running the rec league. And also the East Ridge Football Club, which is a board that we have to have for soccer to be a part of Tennessee State Soccer. They also meet, and actually we donate every year the money that comes in on Scenic City Cup. We buy goals, we buy whatever, we try to help with rec.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Next page is soccer indoor. Still very popular as usual.
Yes.
So we have in here that budget's flat because that's
Help
just
with that
basically
one too.
operational costs. I'll keep going unless somebody stops me. The next one is our baseball, softball, and of course the personnel costs we've already talked about. This is just the operating cost, so it's pretty much flat. Does very well. The next page, football, cheerleading. Same thing. Like I said, these are programs that we've had every year.
Yes,
quite a
they've
few
gone
years.
to flag football. That's all they do now because of the concussion issue. So it's growing.
And the next one is really growing, and that's adult softball.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Is the football still a travel league or is it all down at Camp Jordan now?
The flag football is done, Camp Jordan,
At Camp Jordan.
but we were using high school.
Probably he means as it traveled to different,
No,
it
it's
used
just,
because it's
a
not,
rec.
it's just flag football now.
That's like our baseball, softball. It's just around here.
We'll go to Rossville
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
because we
just do
did on the
locals,
flag
yeah.
when it first started. Yeah.
And then, like I said, adult softball is really starting to take off. So we've increased the amount of the insurance because for the amount of the players,
Yes,
cost
yes.
for players. But besides that, that's become a very, very popular.
yes.
Do we still make them sign a injury relief form?
Well, yes,
Everybody
but we
does,
also, we have player insurance that we pay for separately. That's included in the cost when you register to play.
But they signed the liability.
Yes.
Really, that's what you mean, right?
And then the
Liability.
coaches are covered also.
Right. And then the next page is our basketball league, which is still moving on. Those costs stay pretty much flat. The next page is adult basketball, and we made the decision to not do adult basketball anymore.
They don't play well together.
No, we've had issues with them over at the community center. Anybody that's come in here on a Monday morning as well, you see how trash the parking lots are when we get here. And there's been other issues with the teams and the leagues, some of which I don't have all the information on them, but I do know we've had issues. And Sean is like, for 4,000, it's just not worth it. So we've pulled adult basketball. And that's pretty much everything within parks. Is there any other question?
I have one. Is the aerator not working in the pond? Every time I've been down there, I hadn't seen it.
I have no idea, but I will find out. We are looking, just so you all know, at improving some of the area around the pond. We actually are looking at a grant right now too that might help us with it. We're looking at putting in a fishing dock or a fishing pier and maybe a small pavilion, some other amenities around the pond, but we'll bring that back to the council when we know more. There's one that we're looking at now is a application for a grant We haven't applied yet, but we're in the process of getting
I
information
believe
together.
it's the one
We'd
through
be
Tennessee
100%,
yeah,
100%
Tennessee
covered,
American Water.
which would be great. But we'd love to make some improvements down there for the people that like to fish. Anything else on parks? Okay. Public Works. And of course, Public Works entails a few different departments. One or two of the department managers weren't able to be here with us today, but I will go through as much as I can. If there's a question for some reason I can't answer, we will get the question back to you, the answer back to you. As you see, their budgets, it's pretty much flat. Their personnel, you can see the increase. I'm looking on the summary page where they had the 4% cost of living increase. We'll talk about the decrease in operations in a few minutes about some of the items within Public Works. And some of those are usually like a one-time purchase that we might not have the next year. So that's where that goes. We go, who is here from Public Works? I got Robert. Chris back there somewhere. Okay. You may get some questions here in a minute, Chris. Under demand measures, we talk about one thing that, and I'm going to start with some of the demand measures. We talk about, we mow, as you all know, the 25 acres around Interstate 75. We took that over from the state, and we get paid some to do that. We mow roughly 100 right-of-way sections because the street department also is responsible for the right-of-ways of the streets, along with the maintenance of the streets. We mow roughly 25 city lots, and those are lots that we've either gotten from flood buyouts, tax, whatever, abandonment, right? So lots that have revert to the city, or just lots that we utilize as well, a couple. Pipe installation, 25 per year, asphalt repairs around 100 tons. We have 379 roughly miles, or 379 streets, 77 road miles, 27 miles of pavement markings. We sweep the streets year round, maintain more than 500 stormwater catch basins, repaired around 670 street signs in a year. Of course, they decorate Ringo Road for Christmas, put up all the lights and ancillary things for that. I'll start with building maintenance, and this one's pretty flat. As you can see, I know I use that word a lot today. Personnel, you see it's gone up a little bit just for the 4% salary, 4% cost of living increase. But besides that, it's pretty much stable. Are there any questions on the building maintenance before I move on? All right. Streets, Mr. Vaughn, you want to make your way to the front. Within streets, as you see, are just a slight increase in salaries. And here, one person left, another person came in. They're making a little less salary than the person that left, so that's why I don't see as big of a jump in the salary line. Within streets, you will see that the largest change as you go down through the numbers. I mentioned the fact of we put a 33% increase in the fuel. The largest change you'll see is the transfer to other funds, which I believe that 235 included the 200 originally we had for paving
Yeah,
that we moved over to State Street Aid.
Right, it was 200,000 that we moved to State Street Aid. And then the 235 was the payment on the street sweeper. So in this coming year, the only thing is the street sweeper, which is 35,186. That's transferring that to debt service.
Yes. And those are what the differences are in the street budget. Are there any questions for Mr. Vaughn after I made him come all the way down here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The organizational chart back here, are you at 100% of this, or you one or two men short, or 3 men short, or?
We're working on that right now.
But you're one short, two short, two.
So instead
And
of
he's had
having,
one that's been out for a while for a family issue
yeah, she's,
that's
Yeah.
just come back.
okay. So, because I've got it counted here, you've got 6 people besides yourself in this organizational chart. So you're down to 4.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions on streets? Okay. Next, we have the garage transfer station.
Want to address this one?
There's not much to it. It's pretty much flat. The difference is we didn't add a little bit from this one for water sewer. It's just the area where we have the garage and that little office that's above it, and where we maintain the transfer station where the brush pit is and all that sort of fun stuff. Correct? Any questions on that? No? Okay. We'll go to traffic control. Mike Gailey couldn't be here as well today, so I'll talk about his part. His is, again, the word flat salaries. He had a turnover of one person, so that's why, even though with the cost of living adjustment, the salaries went down just a little bit. In addition to that, his budget is pretty much the same. Any questions on traffic control? No. Okay. We'll go to the next page, which is our operating transfers. We have two different ones. We had a grant that was rolling off from 2021. It was 17,000.
Yeah, we really in this coming year don't have to transfer any over unless we get an unexpected grant, because we built up a little bit of a fund balance there. So we're doing good with that. And then the other is where we're transferring out for debt service, capital projects, and then the ARPA. So giving you a break there.
And that's where we were talking about how we have to show the transparency of where the money comes in the general fund and how it gets transferred to the next fund and all that. After transfers,
C is the 300,000 for CE for the architectural and engineering.
yes.
The 75? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, the 75 is for the tractor shed
Yes.
for the Parks Department,
Yes.
for Parks and Rec. The building, the maintenance, the tractor, whatever we'll call it, they call it the tractor shed.
Yeah.
The maintenance building they have in the very back by where the Osborne Stadium is back over there. I have no idea how old that is, but it's in very, very bad condition. Water flows under it when it rains, water flows through the bathroom when it rains, that building has been in need of replacement for
Yes,
years
we
and
did.
years and
we,
years.
We really have to do it this year.
So we're not talking about the pole barn in.
Yes. The tractor shed pole barn, that's all the way up in the back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, every
So
time
that's the
it
one they want
rains,
to
it
replace.
floods.
Yes. Those what those two are. You want to talk about State Street aid?
Okay, if you'll look at page 88, you'll see where we're showing, we've got two projects that are be going on, a tip and a hip. And so I've got where those revenues are coming in, and then you'll see down in the expenditures where we're offsetting that. You've got John Ross, which is the hip, and Mcbride is the tip. And it shows what our expense will be.
And on John Ross, that's just about ready
Yes, I believe we've got the bids out on that one.
to go forward. And then McBride's getting
Then
pretty close as
Mcbride
well,
probably not.
finally.
Yeah. And then we have the money, and we've got money in for paving.
And that money also is combined with the money that we have from the current year, because in State Street aid, it has its own fund balance. So that money will be pulled together to move forward with street
Yeah, I
paving.
saw you look at me earlier. I was waiting till we got to here. So
Okay.
that'll be combined and we're looking at almost $750,000
Yes.
for paving.
Yes. Any questions on State Street aid? Grant fund, Diane?
Oh. As you can tell with that one, we really don't have any big ones at the moment. They're all small ones. Because we've moved the big ones, the multimodal is in the capital projects fund because it's easier to do there. The splash pad was done out of the capital projects fund because they are capital projects. So for right now, we're just starting with a small amount, and if she gets other grants, then we will amend the budget.
Any questions on grant? If there's anything else you come up with questions on after this, feel free to email me or whatever. And whatever your questions are, I'll make sure when I reply that I forward it to the whole council. Drug fund.
Okay, you want me to?
Your stand. I can take
Okay,
it.
the drug fund, we usually just start out with a small amount because you do not know what we're gonna get in the way of fines, seizures, grants. When their bulletproof vests are done, that money goes into the drug fund. When we reimburse back, that goes to help in the drug fund. And then we just put in to be able to balance the budget, because I don't know what the police chief is gonna want to spend it on. And the drug fund is a special revenue fund that only can be spent for one-time purchases for law enforcement. Correct. Yeah, and so throughout the year, like he'll do the mobile equipment for new police cars, that will come from this fund. So I just amend it throughout the year.
Questions on the drug fund? No? All right, thank you. Economic Development Fund.
That's our pass through. No, that's where the money, when the border region money comes in. And after I do the formulas and verify everything, then I will transfer out what goes for all of our incentives agreements, which we will have some new ones this year that have been open a full year now. Power Sports has been opened a full year, so they will get a payment this year. Yogi's Primo will get a payment this year. And then also for the debt, that border region debt, that money goes there. And then at some point during the year, I will transfer it out as we pay the debt. So I'll leave it in that one and then transfer it out. It's a paper trail, so we can track the money from where it goes, to be very transparent.
Thank you. Any questions on the Economic Development Fund? No? Okay. Solid Waste Fund. Come on, Robert, you've been waiting a while. They're gonna want to ask you some questions. Come on up. I want you to feel useful today.
Usable.
Okay. Solid Waste Fund. As you see, their budget, we show a slight increase in their revenues, which means you have a slight increase in their expenditures. We try to keep the budget balanced. Last year, we had a small hiccup with one of our, the revenue came in higher than what, a little budget higher than we thought. That's why I see the 41. That's just there. Anyway, you all know about Solid Waste Fund. The one thing we do need to change, we should go to page 95. I got back with Robert, who forgot to move the decimal point on his calculator to go through this. So I'd like to make sure you all get the correct numbers on these. For trash, the number should be 6,935 tons, right? For junk, we're at 961 tons. And for recycling, we're at 554 tons. So for the last couple of years, they've been sort of out of whack.
Yeah.
But we got it straight this year. And the brush is still 1,210. I just want to make sure y'all had those correct numbers there, please. As we keep going, as you see the revenue, it's pretty flat, went up a little bit on the sanitation fees. Of course, we've had some, more requests for whether it's garbage cans or some new houses have come online, things of that nature. So we've added a little bit to that. Extra cans, of course, Robert still has problems getting cans ordered because of the lead time with that and recycling. And one thing we've talked about is, I think I've told you all now, with recycling, we actually have to pay for recycling now. Used to be free. I still believe recycling is a good program, but it's something we need to help monitor a little better. Some homes have 2 cans or 3 cans. And
Yes, sir. And
sometimes it's because they don't know how, honestly. Some people do not crush their boxes or things when they put it in the recycling. So it seems to fill up real quick. So I need another one. So that's been one issue that that we've been trying to deal with and try to educate the public with. In addition, some of the commercial entities have recycling, which I don't know if we want to keep doing that or not. That's something we're debating, especially now that we're having to pay more for that. In a lot of cases, commercial entities, even if they have dumpsters or something, they've been recycling, and it's you have they're not able, because they're commercial as opposed to residential. Whenever the cans are out the street, the lids are supposed to be closed, and all this, and then you're supposed to be able to dump it with a truck. And we've had lids break. We've had issues both commercial and residential, that sort
It's
of
also a
stuff.
danger also because of the trash falling into the roads, and the drivers are having to get out and merge out into the road to get the trash up.
Which is not good. So that's something we've been looking at.
Hot trash, but recycle.
Right. And there's a couple areas where, the maximum number of cans a parcel is supposed to have is 8. Is that right?
There's 7
7?
cans.
But there's a place I won't mention pretty close to here on Ringo Road. If you go by on Mondays, you see all the cans lined up and they're overflowing with trash and everything else. It's almost to the point where they need to get a dumpster. Because we're not giving them more cans because they're at the maximum based on the ordinance. And at some point, when you have a commercial operation, they need to get a commercial dumpster to handle the volume of the garbage that they have. So that's something we're looking at as well. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Line item detail, as you see his salaries here. We have one less employee that will be in solid waste. We are eliminating that position, and that position's responsibilities are moving over here into City Hall to handle some other issues over there. Matter of fact, that employee is retiring. So we have that. If you go through the rest of his budget, as you see, it's pretty well flat, with the exception of fuel we have going up. His vehicle repairs is up a little bit. One thing we are looking at is doing something with the disposal costs, landfill services. We have 275 in here. We moved to a different provider this year. That's what was over off of Amnicola. And we have been experiencing, which we were told we weren't, longer delays when a truck has to go and has to wait to be able to dump the load they have and things of
And-
that nature.
Yeah, and they also do not have a clean out bay. And the trucks behind that blade, if all that garbage gets behind the blade, you've got to get it out or it'll cause damage. It'll
So after you
burst
dump,
hoses
you
and
go to
everything.
clean out
Right.
the back. So we were hoping that because of a lower tonnage fee, that it would work out in our favor. But it seems to be that the more time we're spending there having to wait to dump out the trucks is sort of negating what we thought might have been a better landfill fee. So one thing we're looking at doing is going ahead and putting out a bid again to try to see what we can get for disposal fees and come back to the council later in the summer with that, if it's something that's advantageous for us. So we're just trying to figure out the best way to handle the situation. Besides that, I know Robert is very excited about getting his new leaf vacuum truck that'll be coming sometime soon. Tell us about when your trucks are coming in.
That I can't give you a correct answer on, but I mean, they'll be here soon, but I can't give you a correct or date on that.
But you'll have it before leaf season.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. They promised that.
So that's a good thing. So that's pretty much what we have for solid waste funds. Anybody have a question for Robert since I made him walk down here? Guess you're off the hook.
Off the hook.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Debt service fund, back to you, Diane.
If you
Mike.
remember, we refunded.
Pull your mic in front of you, please.
I'm sorry. If you remember, we refunded debt this past year, and that's why you're gonna see some that no longer they have zeros for this coming year because they have rolled into the new one, which is the refunding bond issue. So that was the new one that took the place of those, combined all those into that. The other ones are, yeah, because we combined phase one. The Camp Jordan phase two, we just finished the last draw out on that. That is the one we're still going with. You've got exit one, I-75. That is a loan that took out in 2015. When we were finishing up exit one, it also helped with the incentive with exit Wood Brothers at that time. The capital outlays, you've got public safety. That's the radios that we put in all the police cars. They were going to get a tower, but then they decided this is more cost effective. And I believe we've got 2 more years on that and it'll be paid for. The next one is for police cars that we had financed. I believe it's the last payment coming up on that one. The Motorola lease, we just finished that one. We've made our last payment. That was cameras. There you go. And then the other that is for the new fire truck, the very last one, public safety. The one that's 106, 150.
Remember in the fire budget, you saw the transfer out to the debt service fund from before it gets paid.
And that's all the debt.
How much are we saving when we refinanced all those?
Oh, Do you remember?
It's Close to, it's close
Almost
to a million.
Yeah.
Almost $1 million.
Over the life of all those
900.
loans.
Yes.
Yes, so
That was very good, very good.
you're next.
Capital Projects Fund. Okay, here's where we, as you know, we moved some of our capital projects over to this site. Going through a couple of revenues, you got the TDOT multimodal, as you know, which is finally getting ready to start. You started seeing some construction signs go up. Well, that's a good thing. That's our 2 million. The transfer into 375, that's what Diane talked about. 300 is for the A&E architecture engineering for a new animal services facility. And that's 75 for the tractor shed / pole barn that we have in here. So when you go down a little further, you see the outfall from that. You see the streets and highways at 2 million, the parks and rec at 75. The upgrades to buildings, that was something that was still held over from the year before. We've been making various upgrades as we go through to buildings. There's a little money left in the fund balance there. So we've been, as you've seen, like some of the things we've done out here at City Hall, we're doing some work over at the fire station right now. And this is just something we've been keeping in here also because we need to have a requirement in there for ADA to show where we're still funding and moving forward with ADA improvements on various city buildings, correct? Yes. And of course, the community development grant, Mayor, the very last one on the expenditures, we raised from 30 to 50,000. That's for the facade grant. It's in there. Any questions on our capital projects fund for the upcoming year?
We did receive yesterday the payment from the state of Tennessee, $484,000 on the splash pad to reimburse us back on that.
That's good. And the last page that Diane made me insert is the American Rescue Plan Fund that we just talked about. This year we got 3.1 million, which, as you all know, is being used for on the multimodal for the stormwater in lieu of us using the general fund dollars to do that, because we don't have a stormwater fee or stormwater tax or utilities, so we don't have our own stormwater fund. So at that, we couldn't use it for for that sort of purpose, but that's why we don't have a separate fund. All
So
of our
we don't-
stormwater is done at a general fund. So you're either taking it from here, taking it from there, but that's our general fund money that's going to be used for that portion of the multimodal.
Right. That'll save us on bonding.
Yes, a lot on bonding. So that is pretty much the entire operating budget for this next year. Any other questions or anything you need us to look at? Or if not here, like I said, you're welcome to email me and I'll make sure whatever answers I send back that I make sure the whole council is informed. Diane has a hair appointment, so go.
Canceled it twice to call the budget.
That's on the record, so go. That's it, Mayor. That's the presentation of our fiscal 23 operating budget.
Thank you. Anyone have any last
I
questions?
have one last
Yes, sir.
question. I asked you about the diesel tank, the above ground tank down there. Are we utilizing it or are we buying diesel up there on the road?
No, we're utilizing the diesel tank. Yes.
Okay,
And we are looking a little bit into what you also suggested us to check into about, with gas the way it is it worth us going to some above ground tanks? It's just a long process to try to figure out an answer.
it is. Now, you'll remember people like Midnight Oil and I think Jake Oil,
Yeah. Mhm.
they will come out and I'm not saying for sure, but I think they will come out and put you a tank in and charge you a little bit more for the gas till the tank is paid off, or
Right.
that might be something to check.
And then, of course, on top of that, we talked about, you have to have a fuel management system too. So that I'm not pulling up to the tank and then, Janet's right behind me putting gas in her car as it's supposed to be going in the truck or whatever. So you got to have a whole fuel management system in place too, which isn't
Where
cheap.
the card thing comes in.
All right. Any other questions? I'd like to thank again, administration, department heads and all the employees involved. This is as every year, a lot of work to put together a budget.
Thank you.
So
They've all done a
y'all.
great job helping. Thank you.
And as city manager mentioned, if you have any questions after this, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for doing this.
Thank
Very
you.
informative.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So our first reading will be next Thursday.
Okay. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.